Hey guys, tonight we will hear a dramatic story buried in the humid jungles of Mesoamerica, where beneath grand pyramids and sacred temples, the ancient Maya practiced rituals so terrifying they'd chill your blood. The headline tonight is The Most Terrifying Sexual Practices of the Maya Civilization. You will never imagine that this terrible thing could happen. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing beneath the thick canopy of the Petén jungle in what is now northern Guatemala. It's humid still and fragrant with the scent of ceiba flowers and damp earth. The sounds of howler monkeys echo overhead. Before you, the massive city of Yaxmutal, known to modern archaeologists as Tikal, rises like a dream from the foliage. But this is no idle tour. You are not a visitor. You are Nakin, a young acolyte of the priesthood, chosen at birth for a life of service to the gods. And today you begin to understand the price of that calling. You've trained in the temple of Kukulkan for most of your young life, reading the codices by torchlight, fasting for visions, and studying the sacred calendar. Your teacher, High Priest Eztal, is feared and revered. His sharp obsidian blade isn't just a tool, it is a symbol of spiritual power of sacrifice. He believes, as all Maya do, that the body is a conduit for the divine. Pain opens the portals, blood feeds the gods, and through sex, suffering, and ritual, the cosmos are kept in balance. You aren't alone in your training. There's Ixchel, quiet and fierce, her gaze like sharpened jade. Xok, mischievous and clever, always whispering what you're not supposed to know. And Pakal, your childhood rival, now a man burning with hunger to rise through the ranks. Together, the four of you have been chosen for something the priests only refer to in hushed tones, Ochkak, entering the fire. It begins during the festival of Ka'awil, when Venus appears as the morning star. It's a sacred omen, a signal that the boundaries between the mortal and divine thin like stretched bark paper. You're summoned to the House of the Bat, a secluded temple deep in the eastern district. The elders sit in silent rows. The room smells of copal incense and dried blood. Before them, a young man kneels naked, trembling. His wrists are bound, but not with rope, with woven cords of Magi thorns. His body is already pierced in places you instinctively cover when you see him. His breath is fast, his eyes locked in that strange, glassy look that comes just before the soul flees. This, the priests say, is Aj Kik El, the blood witness. He is the sacrifice, but not in the way most imagine. Tonight, his death must come not from the blade, but through sexual ritual. You're told that the gods require pain to be mingled with pleasure, desire twisted into agony, so that the soul is torn open and the divine can slip inside. You do not speak. You do not question. You kneel. The chant begins. Ixchel and Xok are called first. Each is handed a small vessel of fermented balche wine mixed with crushed datura and toad venom. Hallucinogenic, mind-shattering. Ixchel's hands tremble only once as she drinks. Exok grins his teeth already stained red from chewing annatto seeds. The wine is passed to you next, and it burns your throat with bitterness. Within minutes, the room starts to shift. The priests begin the ritual of Ch'ak Chul, the opening of the body, not with knives, but with sharpened stingray spines and obsidian slivers. The men who have been prepared, offered by their families, or taken in war, kneel on mats. Their penises are pierced in front of the gods. Blood flows into clay bowls. Women too lie still, their genitals pierced with maggy thorns. This is not pleasure. This is devotion through torment. Each drop is a prayer, each cry a hymn. And now it's your turn to serve. You're stripped of your robe. Your skin prickles in the damp air. You are handed a mask, jaguar-faced, and a flint blade no longer than your finger. Priest Estal whispers, "Tonight you do not speak. Tonight your body is the offering." You kneel beside Ixchel. Her fingers brush yours. Together you approach the blood witness. He looks at you with something like hope, but you know better. That hope will be broken. The ritual begins. You learn that sex is not what you thought it was. It is not intimacy. It is not passion. It is submission to the gods, to pain, to death. Each motion is choreographed, each touch dictated by a codex older than your memory. And as the climax approaches, Estal steps forward and drives a blade through the heart of the witness, just as his body begins to writhe. The gods, you are told, only listen when the soul dies in ecstasy and agony combined. You vomit behind the altar. Xok laughs. Pakal smirks. Ixchel says nothing. That night, as you lie sleepless beneath a thatched roof open to the stars, you ask yourself what it means to be holy in a world where divinity demands horror. But the stars do not answer. They never do. In the distance, a drumbeat begins again. Another ritual, another sacrifice, another night of terror masked as worship. And this is only the beginning. You awaken before dawn, drenched in sweat. The jungle's breath is thick on your skin, heavy with rot and flour. Your mouth is dry, tongue swollen from the dregs of balshay still lingering in your blood. You sit up slowly, your muscles aching, your thighs bruised, and you remember everything. The cries, the blood, the moment the soul slipped away beneath your hands. They say you should feel pride. You served the gods. You walked the sacred path. But as the mist coils through the trees, all you feel is a strange hollowness, like something was taken from you, something you can't name. Ixchel is already awake, sitting cross-legged near the temple's edge, gazing toward the eastern sky. Her body is still streaked with dried blood, her braid tangled. She doesn't look at you when she speaks. "It changes you," she says. You want to ask what she means, but you already know. Later that morning, you return to the House of the Bat. High Priest Estal greets you with his usual silence, but this time he marks your forehead with a line of black ash. You are now Aj-Tizak, he declares, keeper of the offering. It is a title given only to those who have enacted the sacred sexual sacrifice and lived. Most do not live long after. You learn that in Tikal's secret chambers, sexuality was not a private act. It was sacred warfare. And you were now a weapon. Estal assigns each of you to separate tasks. You and Pakal are chosen for the rite of Sak Nikte, the white flowering, a fertility ceremony. But fertility among the Maya elite is not sweet and symbolic. It is violent, precise, and terrifying. The rulers believe their lineage is divine, and to ensure it remains so, every conception must occur under ritual conditions that often break the body before they seed life. You're taken to the Temple of the Moon, far from the central plaza. It's carved with images of serpents devouring men and women mid-embrace. The air inside is cooler, darker, somehow more ancient. There, a noblewoman lies on a woven mat. Her arms are tied, her stomach painted with the symbol for corn, a sign of fertility. She is willing, a priest says, but must not resist. Her screams feed the maize god. You and Pakal do not speak to each other. You simply kneel, and the ritual begins. She is not a woman to you. She is the embodiment of Ixchel, goddess of midwifery and sex. She must receive pain to bring forth life. Her thighs are cut lightly with obsidian, the blood used to anoint her navel. Then she is penetrated first by Pakal, then by you, not in lust, but with ceremony, rhythm, obligation. She cries out, but no one moves to comfort her. A conch shell blows. It is done. The priest announces her womb is now fertile. Whether she conceives or not is up to the gods. She is untied and left in the temple overnight alone. You return to your quarters in silence. Pakal finally speaks. She will never look at her child without remembering us. And you know he's right. The next moon cycle brings new horrors. Ok disappears one night. No one explains. You ask Ixchel, and she only shakes her head. A few nights later, you find his mask left at the foot of the Temple of Skulls. Blood still wet along the edge. You realize that not all sacrifices are formal. Some vanish. Some are consumed by the rituals they perform. You spend your days now studying the Codex Dresden. Its pages whisper of sacred acts, punishments for impurity, and the sexual rites of the Batabab or warrior priests. One page haunts you an image of a man suspended by hooks through his genitals, while a priestess below collects the dripping blood in a painted bowl. This, it says, is the opening of the underworld mouth. It must be performed when the gods grow silent. Estal says your time is coming. When the rains return, so does death. A plague begins to spread through the lower dwellings. They blame an unappeased goddess. You are sent to the edge of the city, to the shrine of Ixtab, goddess of suicide and abandoned women. There you meet two new acolytes, Unil, whose voice trembles when she speaks, and Chak tall, quiet, with eyes like storm clouds. Together you prepare for the ritual of shame. A peasant girl has been accused of fornication outside ritual law. Her lover died of fever, but her belly swells proof of her transgression. In Maya belief, such children threaten cosmic balance. They are born under no god, no omen. The punishment. The girl must be ritually cleansed, which means tortured. They bring her in shackled and naked. She's barely older than you. Her eyes plead, but no one answers. You're instructed to paint her with crushed insects and ash symbols of impurity. Then she's paraded through the streets, jeered, spat on, until she collapses in the courtyard of the Temple of 5 Stones. There you are, given a curved bone blade. You must carve the sin from her, Estal says. You cut her pubic hair while she weeps. The priestess chants. Then you smear her inner thighs with the blood of a howler monkey, believed to carry the soul of lust. Finally, she is whipped with cactus fronds soaked in salt water. She survives, but her child does not. You are told this is mercy. You do not feel merciful. You feel sick. Later that night, Ixchel comes to you. She lies beside you without a word. Her hand takes yours. You feel warmth for the first time in weeks, but it fades quickly, drowned beneath memory and duty. You turn away. In the shadows of your heart, you begin to wonder, what if the gods are not hungry for blood? What if it is only men who are? You won't ask aloud. Not yet. Because to ask is to be next. The days melt together like beeswax under a jungle sun. The rituals no longer shock you. They simply weigh you down one after the other like stones added to your chest. Sometimes you forget the faces of those who suffer. You forget their names, too. But the sounds, the whimpers, the gasps, the terrible silence that comes after the pain that lingers, always. Pakal thrives in this world. He sharpens his blade in the mornings, drills his body in the courtyard, studies glyphs deep into the night. The high priests whisper of him now, the next to lead, they say. But you, Nakin, you no longer care about advancement. You begin to feel something close to dread every time your name is called. Ixchel is slipping too. You notice it in the way she stares into nothing, how her hands tremble after ceremonies. You hear her at night whispering to someone who isn't there. Sometimes she calls your name, but when you answer, she says nothing. It's during the ceremony of Yaks Kawil, the renewal of divine seed, that your sense of control finally fractures. You and Ixchel are chosen for a rite involving a nobleman and his virgin daughter. The father, elderly and disfigured from disease, believes his bloodline is cursed. The priests offer him redemption. Through transfer, that is, you and Ixchel must perform a ritual act of sexual transference on the daughter, while the father watches cut and bleeding, offering his pain to the gods in exchange for the girl's fertility. The temple is prepared with flowers and blood. The girl, no more than 13, is painted in blue spirals. She does not move, does not speak. The nobleman is tied to a frame and cut across the chest in a rhythm matching the drumbeat. And you, what are you now? A vessel, a monster, a priest. Ixchel begins the dance of fertility, her arms raised, her body swaying. You move with her not as lovers but as puppets beneath the eyes of the gods. Then the girl is brought forward. You pause. This is wrong. Something in your stomach turns, but your feet do not move. You feel the eyes of Estal, cold and expectant. You remember Zok, whose mask was found and never explained. You remember the peasant girl's screams. And then Ixchel does something unthinkable. She turns, walks to the child, and embraces her. No blade, no ritual, just an embrace. The room falls silent. Even the drums pause. Estal steps forward, face like flint. You defy the will of the gods, he growls. Ixchel speaks, her voice cracked, but firm. No, I offer a new prayer. What follows is chaos. Guards move to seize her, but she pulls the obsidian knife from her sash, not to fight, but to slice her own hand. She smears the blood on the child's forehead and whispers, "Be free of them." Then she throws the knife at Estal's feet. You stand frozen. The child is dragged away. Ixchel is bound. She does not scream. That night, the wind howls through the city. Thunder growls low in the distance, though no rain comes. You cannot sleep. You stare at the ceiling of your hut, listening to the insects hum, and the memories twist inside you like snakes. At dawn, you rise and slip away barefoot and trembling. You make your way to the sacred cenote, a sinkhole said to be the mouth of Xibalba, the Maya underworld. Offerings are thrown here, gold, jade, human bones. Some say if you stare into its depths, the gods will speak. You stare. They do not. Instead, you hear a voice behind you. You'll be next, Pakal says. His voice is calm, almost amused. Estal has already begun the preparations. They will flay her. Not all at once, just enough, every day, until she names you as accomplice. You turn. I didn't help her. You didn't stop her either. That truth cuts deeper than any blade. You want to run, he asks. You nod slowly. He shrugs. Then run. But where can you go? The jungle is vast. The cities are bound by priests, by power, by blood. Even the outcasts carry the same fear. You've seen it in the eyes of the men brought for sacrifice, the warriors, the slaves, the defectors. There is no safety, only different flavors of death. Still, you try. You slip away that night through the east gate. You leave behind your robes, your beads, your name. You become a shadow among the trees. You follow the path of deer and jaguar. Days pass. You eat roots, drink rainwater from leaves. You no longer dream. Or if you do, you don't remember. Then you find them. A hidden village far beyond the edge of the known maps. The people here wear no glyphs. They burn no incense. They worship no idols. Their eyes widen when they see you thin and ragged and half mad. But they do not turn you away. Among them is a woman named Mehen. She nurses you back from fever. She does not ask where you came from. She only touches your forehead gently and whispers, "You don't have to tell me." Here for a time there is quiet, but it never lasts. One morning you wake to smoke rising in the east. A patrol of priests sent from Tikal. They are searching. Not for you, they don't know your face anymore, but for defectors, dissenters, the faithless. They will find this village. You could run again, but something inside you hardens. Maybe this time you won't. You wait until the second sun mark when the birds grow quiet and the light turns honey-colored. The jungle stills before danger, just as you now still yourself. The patrol from Tikal will reach the outer edge of the village by nightfall. The elders gather in a circle. Their faces are lined with fear, not from superstition, but memory. Mehen stands beside you. She grips your wrist. "You can leave," she says. "You owe us nothing." But she is wrong. You owe everything. This village gave you a name when yours became a curse. They gave you bread and water. Let your madness pass without question. Here you were no priest, just a man, just Nakin. So you stay. The elders offer the ancient ritual of hiding burning sacred fronds and burying effigies beneath the huts to confuse the spirits of outsiders. But you know better. You've seen how Estal thinks. Smoke will not fool him. They will not send warriors. They will send women. 3 days later, they arrive. Not robed in blood red and jade like the high priests, but painted in white dust, silent as ghosts. They move through the village like smoke. Their eyes are blank, their mouths sealed shut with thread. These are Chinam Itzam, the daughters of the net, trained to retrieve wayward souls, not to kill, but to twist. They carry no blades. They do not need them. The first to fall is a boy named Balaam, barely 15. They touch his forehead, whisper his name, and he walks willingly into the forest. His mother screams. No one follows. Next they come for Mehen. You find her before they do. She is kneeling by the river washing cassava. She sees you coming. "It's time, isn't it?" she asks. You nod. She takes your hand and places it on her stomach. You feel it. Life. You stagger backward, breath caught in your throat. You didn't know, she says. I was waiting. This changes everything. You can't run. You can't let her fall into their hands. You have to return. Back to Tikal. Back to Estal. Back to Ixchel. You steal into the night with a bow and a woven cloak. Mehen gives you a charm twine wrapped around a rabbit bone. For forgetting, she says. So you can pretend to be one of them again. You don't have the heart to tell her you never stopped pretending. The journey is brutal. Thorns tear your legs. You drink from foul pools. You sleep in trees to avoid the snakes. But still the city rises in the distance like a scar reopened. Tikal. Its towers pierce the sky. You return not through the main gates, but through the underpaths used by burial slaves and herbal gatherers. You're thinner now, your face changed by hunger and sun. No one stops you. You find Zok's old haunt beneath the temple of the inscriptions where the tunnel meets the sacred library. There you seek out Tamach, the record keeper, blind, ancient, and half-mad but still loyal to coin. He does not recognize you, but he recognizes the sigil you carry scratched into a bit of pottery. The same sigil you wore when you were Aj Tizak. You're not supposed to be alive, he rasps. Neither is she, you reply. Tamach tells you where they keep the traitors. The Hollow. A pit beneath the Temple of the Moon, carved from stone and lined with pine resin. Lightless. Wet. Full of rats. Those placed inside are neither killed nor fed, only kept. Until they break, Ixchel is there. Barely. You descend by torchlight. The stench hits you first, feces, sweat, and the faint copper tang of blood. She is curled into the corner naked, but for a rope of thorns around her wrists. Her hair is crawling with lice. Her eyes blink once when the torchlight catches them. She doesn't speak until you kneel beside her. You're not real, she whispers. I am. She reaches for your hand, then pulls back. They tried to make me tell about you, about what I saw in the girl's eyes. But I didn't. I couldn't. Tears traced down her face, so you didn't think she had any left. I thought maybe you'd come, but then I thought you wouldn't. And that made it easier. To let go. You carry her out in the dead of night. Tamach opens the passage beneath the temple that leads to the cenote. He presses a vial of crushed morning glory seeds into your palm. For the pain, he says. Hers. Or yours. Doesn't matter. Outside, the moon is full. The path is narrow. You walk with her draped over your shoulder. She weighs almost nothing. You don't know where you're going yet. Just away. But something stops you. A voice. Pakal. He steps from the shadows like a figure conjured by guilt. Taller now. Robed in deep black. He is no longer aspiring. He has become. You should not have come back, he says. I didn't come back for you, you say. He looks at Ixchel. She was broken the moment she touched the gods with her own hands. I saw her touch a child. With mercy, you snap. He smiles, but there's no joy in it. Same thing. Then his hand reaches inside his robe. You react too fast for thought. The torch hits the ground. Sparks fly. The blade glints. You move. And Pakal falls. You stare at your hands, covered in blood that's not yours. Again. Ixchel stirs in your arms. Is it done? You want to say yes. But the night isn't over. Not yet. The jungle doesn't embrace you this time. It gnashes its teeth. You carry Ixchel in silence, her breaths shallow against your shoulder. Her fever returns quickly. The wound on her side from the rope burns, and even the balm you've made from crushed plantain leaves won't soothe it. You have no choice but to find shelter and fast. 3 days pass. Mehen is always in your mind. Her eyes, her belly, the weight of hope that now feels heavier than any ritual blade. You reach a cave system known only in the old codices, Chin Tu Lul, the hollow of the weeping jaguar. It's a place where outcasts once hid from kings and gods alike. The mouth of the cave is shaped like an open jaw. You crawl inside with Ixchel in your arms. There you meet them. Not villagers, not priests, but survivors. 6 of them at first, gaunt, feral-eyed, painted with ash and bone. They encircle you with spears tipped in fire-hardened wood. But when they see Ixchel, when they see the scars, the thorns, the bruises, they lower their weapons. They've seen these marks before. You don't have to explain. They take you in. Among them is a woman named Naj, once a temple dancer, who fled after she refused the Yaks Tok, the flower blood rite, and Chaknal, a former scribe with fingers burned so he could never write again. He hides behind silence, but his eyes take in everything. Their leader is a man named Molon, tall, broken-nosed, who speaks only in questions. His mind is half gone, but his spirit is strong. They tell you the cave is a sanctuary for those who have touched death, but refuse to become its tool. You ask for help healing Ixchel. Naj begins mixing herbs. She'll live, she says, but her mind may not. That night, as Ixchel sleeps beside a small fire, you sit with Molon at the cave's edge. He hands you a gourd of fermented honey and smoked peppers. It burns your throat and makes your heart race. Tell me, he says, finally did the gods weep when you broke the law? You look at your hands. I think the gods weren't watching at all. Molon nods. We made gods from our fears, he says. Then we let those fears eat our children. In the days that follow, you learn more about the cave's true purpose. It is not just a hideout. It is a mirror. Here, they reenact the ceremonies twisted, yes, but inverted. They perform the rite of cleansing, not with blood, but with song. The fertility rituals become dances full of laughter and sweat, not pain. The sacrifice of purity becomes an offering of stories. The first time you see them gather in a circle, painting their faces not with ash, but with crushed flowers, you feel something break loose in your chest. You remember how it was once before you knew what the gods demanded. You remember innocence. Ixchel begins to return slowly. Her voice comes back in fragments. She begins to smile again, small and crooked. Sometimes she wakes in terror, clutching your arm, but Naj is always nearby with tea and a soft chant to soothe her back to sleep. She never speaks of the hollow, until one night. She finds you sitting by the fire. The others are asleep. The jungle hums outside like a slow drum. I saw her, she says. Who the girl? The one I embraced. She came to me in a dream. She was whole, laughing. She said, you chose mercy. You look at her unsure. Maybe she was real, Ixchel adds. Or maybe she was the part of me I lost. You don't speak. Because in your own dreams, it's not the girl who comes to you. It's Eztal. You see his face, stern, blood-splashed eyes like obsidian. You left the door open, he whispers. You touched the forbidden. Now it follows you. The dream ends the same way every night, with your hands dripping, with Mayhen's face wide-eyed whispering you were too late. You awaken gasping, and the cave smells like blood. You leap up. Everyone else is awake too. Molon is already by the entrance. There's a mark carved into the stone outside the cave. 3 vertical slashes, the sign of Aju Popol, the king's mouth, the elite hunters of heretics and deserters. They do not give warnings. This was not a sign of arrival. It was a sign of ownership. They know, Molon says. We've been marked. There is no panic, only resolve. You and Molon scout the edges. Tracks, 5 men, heavily armed, moving silent, probably already watching. You return to the cave. You have to leave, Molon says. What about the others? They will scatter. They've done it before. But you carry something they want. You glance at Ixchel. No, you say. We both go. That night you make ready. Molon gives you a carved obsidian blade not for fighting, for cutting roots, building traps, surviving. He presses his forehead to yours. You have unlearned the gods, he says. That is the most dangerous thing of all. You leave before dawn. Ixchel walks beside you, a satchel over her shoulder, strength in her legs again. The jungle is thick, but you know its breath now. You know where the snakes sleep, where the birds cry, warning. You walk until the sound of water fills the air, then follow it upstream. And then you see it. A massive tree twisted like a serpent's spine with roots that curl into the shape of a woman kneeling. Ixchel stops. She touches the bark. This is where it began, she whispers. You don't ask what she means, because you know it now. You're not fleeing anymore. You're seeking something. The gods are still watching, but now so are you. The great tree stands before you like a frozen scream. Its roots claw the earth, twisted in shapes too human to be coincidence. Its bark bleeds sap the color of old blood, sticky and sweet. Ixchel doesn't move. She stares upward, lips parted, whispering a prayer not taught in any temple. What is this place, you ask, though you feel the answer in your marrow? She touches the hollow of the tree's trunk. It's called Uxmal Ku, the womb of the forgotten god. You have heard whispers of it, not in the temples, but from the lips of old slaves and blind scribes. A tree cursed by the gods for birthing a rival, a deity formed not from order, but from sorrow and skin. A god who didn't demand blood, but wept for the bodies it saw mangled in worship. The priests erased its name, but some remembered. Some kept the stories in caves and dreams. It is said that any who sleep near the womb begin to dream of truths that cannot be unseen. You should leave, but you don't. You make camp beneath its twisted arms, laying Ixchel on a mat of leaves. The sounds of the jungle hush. Not fade hush as if holding its breath. That night you sleep, and the god comes. Not in the form of a man, not a beast, not even a face, but a feeling. You stand in the courtyard of Tikal naked, beneath a sky that drips black. Your body is painted in white ash. Eztal walks toward you, smiling. Behind him, Pakal, his throat still bleeding. Behind them, the girl, blue paint on her stomach, eyes empty. They chant in a language you should not know. And you, weeping, trembling, step forward. But instead of kneeling, you scream. It is not a scream of defiance. It is birth. From your chest, the tree erupts, tearing ribs, splitting bone. The branches stretch toward the heavens. The crowd does not flee. They kneel. Even Eztal bows. And the tree, your tree, whispers, they worship only what wounds them. You wake, gasping. Ixchel is awake too. She clutches your hand. I saw it too, she whispers. You don't speak. Because the dream hasn't ended. You're still in it. You feel it, the hum beneath the earth, the way your skin seems too tight, your breath too shallow. Something has shifted. The jungle knows your name now. The next days blur. You follow no trail, only instinct. The tree recedes behind you, but its presence lingers like a scent on your skin. Ixchel begins drawing on bark paper symbols she's never seen, but somehow knows. Spirals, eyes, a mouth devouring a blade, and always a figure curled in fetal position, surrounded by flames that never touch it. I think she says one night that there were others like us, long before Tikal, before the priests. You nod. You believe her. But belief changes nothing. The past cannot be unmade until you find the ruins. They are not grand, not the towering pyramids of the city. These are older, cracked, and sunken into the earth, their glyphs barely readable. Vines strangle the stone. The walls are carved not with scenes of conquest or sacrifice, but of birth. Over and over. Children born from men, from animals, from dreams. In the center is a chamber. Within it, an altar. Upon it, a body. You recoil at first, but step forward. It's a skeleton, ancient yet undisturbed, the pelvis wide, the spine curved. But the skull bears two faces, split down the center, one side grinning, the other weeping. She died giving birth to herself, Ixchel whispers. You look down, and you see it. In the hollow of the altar, a scroll sealed in resin. You break it. The glyphs burn into your vision. You cannot read them, not with eyes. But you know what they mean. They tell of Ixtaman, the god of unmaking, the great wound, the watcher who weeps. A deity so feared it was buried by time, not for what it demanded, but what it revealed, that worship built on pain is a mirror, and all who gaze long into it become the blade they once feared. You are shaking. Ixchel places a hand on your back. You understand it now. You do all of it. Eztal, Pakal, the rituals, the screaming children, the blood on your hands. None of it was divine. It was fear dressed in feathers and fire, and it was designed to consume. You bury the scroll, not to hide it, but to plant it, beneath the roots of the altar. You think it'll grow? Ixchel asks, half smiling. Only if the gods are done screaming. She chuckles. It's the first time you've heard her laugh, and you realize it doesn't sound like a prayer. It sounds like forgiveness. You leave the ruins just after dawn. There is no ceremony, no farewell, just the quiet understanding that something within you has been peeled back, and whatever remains is no longer shaped by fear alone. Ixchel walks beside you, stronger now, her steps steady again. The jungle doesn't frighten you anymore. It listens. You feel it in the rustle of the trees, the way the birds flutter, but do not flee. You have changed. But Tikal still stands, and so does Eztal. You speak little as you travel, but when you do, it's always of Mehen, of her breath, her stillness, the curve of her belly. You don't even know if she's still alive. But the thought of her keeps you moving. Then one evening you find the river, and beside it smoke, a small fire crackling beneath the shadow of ceiba trees. You raise your hand cautiously. Then you see her. Mehen. She is sitting with her back to you, feeding the flames. Her belly is larger now, her face thinner. But when she turns and sees you, her eyes do not widen. She just smiles. I knew you'd come. You run to her, fall to your knees, bury your head in her lap, and sob like a child. She places her fingers in your hair. You're late, she says. And though her voice is teasing, there's an ache beneath it. You tell her everything. Ixchel does too when her voice returns. The womb of the forgotten god, the ruins, the scroll, the dream. Mehen listens without question. Then she tells you her own story. After you fled, the Chinam Itzam took the boy but left her. She believes it was deliberate, that Eztal wants her alive, that her child is part of something he believes is sacred. They will come again, she says. Then we run again, you reply. But Ixchel shakes her head. No. We finish it. And so the three of you begin to plan. Not a battle, a ritual. But not like the old ones. A new rite. Built not from agony and obedience, but from memory, from birth, from the fragments of lost gods buried in stone and song. Ixchel draws the circle, not with blood, but with crushed flowers. You gather symbols, bark from the tree that bled in your dreams, stones from the altar, where the god wept, feathers from the bird that sang when Mehen first bled. And in the center, Mehen stands, naked, glowing, alive. It is not performance, it is prayer. You dance not as a priest, but as a man remembering what it means to move without permission. Ixchel sings not in the temple tongue, but in the broken lullabies of the women you were never allowed to save. Mehen weeps, not in fear, in release. And when the moon crests over the trees and the jungle stills, you feel it. The shift, the echo. The gods are not watching, but something else is, something older. The ritual ends with silence. No flame, no climax, just a stillness that folds into the skin. Later you sit around the fire. Ixchel quiet runs her fingers along her own scars. I used to think pain made me holy, she murmurs. It made us obedient, you say. Mehen looks at you both. And now it makes us remember. You do not know what comes next, but it no longer feels like a curse. You sleep beside Mehen that night, your hand on her belly. The child kicks. It feels like thunder. You dream again, but this time there are no altars, no blades, only a room of stone filled with light where the dead sit in circles telling stories of when they were still afraid and laughing. In the dream you laugh too, but the dream doesn't last, because come morning they arrive. You hear them first. Boots, marching, steady, heavy, a patrol, bigger than before. Not hunters, not ghosts, soldiers, 15 of them, led by a woman, tall, armored in jade and obsidian. Her skin is painted with rivers. Her eyes are sharpened obsidian. You know her face, you saw her once at the temple of Kukulkan. A high inquisitor. Aknal, Estal's left hand. She does not shout. She does not threaten. She simply steps into the clearing and speaks with ice. Give us the mother. Mehen holds your hand tighter. Ixchel stands. She is not yours. Aknal tilts her head. She carries what belongs to the gods. No Ixchel replies, she carries what survived them. And in that moment, you see it. The shift. The fear. Not in you, in them, Aknal narrows her eyes. Then you have chosen exile. You step forward. No, you say. We have chosen birth. And the jungle once silent answers back with birdsong. Aknal doesn't flinch. The jungle hums around her, but her posture remains statuesque, chiseled by years of sacrifice, hardened by flame. Her soldiers wait behind her blades, sheathed for now, but you can see their hands twitching. Not out of fear, out of doctrine. Obedience. Ixchel moves first. She places herself between Mehen and the clearing, bare feet pressing into the circle of ash and flower petals from last night's rite. She carries no weapon, only her voice. Your gods are dead, she says, and the ones who carried their names live only through you. You are their echo, nothing more. Aknal raises her hand. The soldiers surge forward. But then you act. You lunge not toward them, but toward the fire pit. Your hands plunge into the embers. Pain blossoms instantly, but you find it beneath the ash, a clay vessel sealed with wax. You hurl it into the center of the clearing. It shatters. Smoke bursts upward, thick and acrid, made from crushed herbs, toad skin, and bone dust. The soldiers reel back, coughing, eyes watering. And then the screams begin. Not from them, from the trees, from the stones, from the wind itself. Wailing, moaning, a song of agony that does not come from any living mouth. You didn't expect it. Neither did Ixchel. Neither did Mehen. The jungle itself is singing your fear back at you. But Aknal stands firm. You play with things you do not understand, she says through the smoke. You think your little ceremony undid centuries, that your unborn child carries something holy. No, you say, stepping into view again, your hands blistered but clenched. We don't think it. We know it. She draws her blade. Not obsidian. Flint. Jagged. Grooved. Meant for flaying, not killing. She charges. Ixchel meets her halfway. It isn't a duel. It's desperation. Aknal is faster, stronger, more trained. But Ixchel knows the terrain. She moves through roots and shadow darting, cutting, drawing the Inquisitor toward the edge of the clearing. You yell her name, but she doesn't turn. Then the sound. That horrible wet crack. And silence. You run. You find Ixchel collapsed beside a tree. Her arm bent wrong. Her side sliced open, but breathing. Aknal stands over her. She lifts her blade and is stopped. By Mehen. She walks slowly, carefully into the clearing. She does not speak. She simply kneels and draws a symbol in the dirt, a spiral, then another, then a third. Then she opens her mouth and sings. Not a hymn, a lullaby. One you've heard only once when she touched your face the first night you returned and whispered, "We are not born to die screaming." The sound paralyzes Aknal. Her blade lowers. The soldiers shift. Something is breaking. And then Ixchel rises, bleeding, weak, but alive. She joins the song. And you, your throat ragged, your hands ruined, you add your voice. Aknal stumbles backward. She covers her ears. She screams, and the trees respond. Not with wind, with ash, with voices, with names. Hundreds, thousands, the forgotten, the sacrificed. They fall around you like rain. You cannot see the soldiers now, only the petals, only the cries, then silence. When the smoke clears, Aknal is gone. So are the soldiers. No bodies, no footprints. Just a clearing now painted in ash, blood, and spirals. You help Ixchel up. She winces but walks. Mehen reaches for your hand. They'll return. No, Ixchel says. They won't. And you realize she's right. Because they weren't destroyed. They were seen. And nothing kills a myth faster than being seen without fear. That night, you bury the flint blade Aknal left behind. You plant it like a seed. Ixchel says nothing. Mayhen watches the fire stroking her stomach. I think the baby's coming soon, she whispers. You say nothing, because you already know. The gods are gone, but the world is only now beginning. The days after the ritual pass like slow-moving smoke. The jungle is quieter now, as if the land itself has exhaled. Ixchel rests her wound bound in poultices made from crushed chaya leaves and river clay. You boil water every morning and carry it to her. Mayhen wakes early too, though her steps have grown slower, heavier. She no longer sings, not out loud. She hums now. Low, steady tones that vibrate against your chest when you stand close. You are building something, not a temple, not a shrine, a cradle. The world will need a place to begin again. You gather branches, vines, dried gourd shells, and soft bark fiber. Ixchel instructs you, shaping every curve with deliberate hands. The child must sleep surrounded by symbols of peace, she says. Not bones, not fire, not masks. At night, Mayhen dreams. Her body twitches, her breath short. You ask her what she sees, and she tells you water, deep water, with faces inside it. You do not sleep much anymore, because in your own dreams you are back beneath the temple of the moon, watching yourself walk toward the altar, carrying your own child. Only there is no child, only a mask. Jaguar, split down the middle, and the crowd chants over and over. You will become what you bury. You wake before dawn and go to the river, alone. The mist clings to your skin. The fish stir beneath the surface, and on the far bank you see him. Estal, older, gaunter, but unmistakable. He stands with hands folded, no weapon, no soldiers, no disguise. He is alone. You do not run. You walk. You cross the river barefoot, each step trembling with the cold of memory. When you reach the shore, he nods. I knew you'd return, he says. I didn't. He tilts his head. And yet here we are. There is no ceremony, no chants. Only two men burned by what they once believed, standing at the edge of something neither can name. I came to see the child, he says. She isn't born yet. Not her, he replies. The new God. You look at him carefully. There is no God. Estal smiles. But it is not cruelty. It is relief. Good, he says. Then maybe we have a chance. You don't know what he means, until he sits beside you and tells you a story. When I was a child, my brother was chosen for the harvest rite, he says. I was too small. I watched him walk into the temple, proud, painted, thinking he would become divine. You say nothing. He screamed longer than they expected. He didn't die well, and I realized then there are no gods watching, only men with knives, and others too afraid to stop them. You study his face. It's lined, weary. You built the system, you whisper. I inherited it. Just like you. Just like Pakal. He sighs. I tried to keep it clean, precise, ritualized. I thought, if I could control it, I could protect people from worse. You shake your head. There is no clean pain. Estal nods. Then he reaches into his robes and pulls something out. A bundle wrapped in dyed cotton. He places it in your hand. You unwrap it slowly. A scroll. Not bark, not stone. Woven from hair. Human hair. And written in blood. You read the glyphs. They aren't of Tikal, they're older. Much older. And they tell of a ritual even the high priests don't speak of. The turning, where the priest unbinds his own name, renounces his own gods, and offers not a body but a memory. What is this, you ask? My atonement. You look up. Estal's eyes are wet. I won't ask for forgiveness, he says, but I will carry what I gave to others until it kills me. And with that he rises. He turns. He walks back into the jungle. You do not follow. You bury the scroll beneath the roots of the oldest tree you can find. Not with a prayer. With silence. When you return, Ixchel is awake. Mehen is in labor. You do not panic. You build the fire. Boil the water. Hold her hand. She screams yes, but not in fear. In life. Hours pass, and then there she is, slick with blood, writhing, alive, your daughter. You hold her against your chest. Her skin is warm, her eyes shut, her breath steady. You do not weep, you do not laugh. You simply whisper, "You are not theirs. You are not mine. You are your own." And Ixchel smiles, and Mehen sighs, and the jungle leans closer, listening. Your daughter's name is chosen in a whisper, not by you, not by Mehen, not even by Ixchel, but by the wind. It comes the night after she is born, when the fire has died to embers, and the stars are close enough to hear. You cradle her in your arms, listening to her breathe, tiny and fierce. Mehen lies asleep, her chest rising and falling, with the rhythm of healing. Ixchel sits across the fire, eyes glinting. Then the wind shifts, and you hear it. A name. Not in glyphs, not in temple tongue, just a sound. Ka'al. The name means branch that grows from burned wood. You do not question it. You simply speak it aloud, and your daughter stirs in your arms as if she knows it already. Ka'al. Your fire child, born not into sacrifice, born into story. But even stories are hunted. Within days, the jungle brings news smoke on the eastern horizon. Not ritual, not village. This is war fire, controlled, directed, and moving fast. Ixchel scouts to the ridge and returns pale. They're coming, she says. Not soldiers, not priests. Then who she swallows? The bone carriers. You freeze. You've heard the name only once whispered in the hollow, when a woman refused to speak for 3 days after a vision. They are not hunters. They are not believers. They are the final hand of the old system, the purifiers, the ones sent not to capture, not even to punish, but to erase. Their masks are made of jawbone. Their blades are never cleaned. Their rituals involve no chanting, only silence. They come only when the priests no longer believe their own gods can fix what has been broken. You thought the gods were dead, but the men who pretended to be them still live. Ixchel looks at you across the fire. They won't take prisoners. They'll salt the earth. You know what that means. Even Ka'al is not safe, especially Ka'al. You begin packing at once. Herbs, water gourds, firestones. But Mehen stops you. No, she says softly. You turn. We have to move. She shakes her head. We've run enough. You stare at her body still raw from childbirth, at her hand now trembling as she grips her staff, at her eyes, still fire, still smoke, still star. You want to fight, you whisper. No, she replies. I want them to see what we've become. You don't understand. Until Ixchel steps forward and pulls something from her satchel. A mask, not the old kind. This one is made of bark feathers and teeth, but smiling, peaceful. She hands it to you, then pulls out another for herself, another for Mehen, another small and delicate for Ka'al. You hesitate. Masks were once the tools of terror, of submission, of ceremony. But these are different. Symbols of what you survived. Mehen wraps Ka'al tightly to her chest. The child stirs but does not cry. You lift the mask to your face. It smells of ash and honey. And when you wear it, you feel nothing sacred, only human. The next day, the bone carriers arrive. You see them before they see you. 6 of them. Tall, armored in black resin, covered in glyphs carved into skin. Their masks gape with the teeth of those they killed. They walk into the clearing, expecting a corpse. Instead, they find you standing. Ixchel to your left, Mehen to your right, Ka'al in her arms. They stop. They do not draw weapons. One steps forward, lifts his hand, and signs. In the old priest gesture. Who do you serve? Ixchel answers first. She draws a spiral in the dirt, not with a blade, with her finger. Then you answer. You speak Ka'al's name aloud. No title, no offering, just breath. The bone carrier removes his mask. He's young, younger than you were when Estal made you Ajtzak. His face is painted, but beneath the paint, he is shaking. You should be dead, he says quietly. No, you reply. We were born again. He looks around the clearing, at the fire, at the flowers, at the lack of fear. Then he kneels, slowly, and weeps. The others do not stop him. They watch, and then one by one they too remove their masks. They drop them, bone on earth, shattered. The first time you ever heard a scream in Tikal, it meant pain. The first time you heard silence, it meant death. Now this silence is different. This silence is permission. You do not speak. You simply reach down, lift one of the broken jawbone masks, and place it in the fire. It does not burn all at once. It hisses, like an old god losing breath. Ixchel places her hand on your shoulder. Mehen lowers herself to the ground, Ka'al asleep on her chest. The bone carriers vanish before dawn. You do not know where they go. You only know they didn't stay. And that is enough. You begin to dream again. Not of temples or knives, but of hands. Thousands of hands. Not grasping, lifting. You dream of a city built not on blood, but on stories whispered beneath starlight. of children running through jungle paths with masks made from leaves, not bones, of songs that don't end in silence. But in the dreams, there's always one shadow. It never moves. It only watches. You know its name, but you do not speak it. Ka'al grows quickly. Her eyes are the color of rainstone, her skin warm like the earth after thunder. She does not cry often, but when she does, the trees still. The birds hush. The wind bends toward her. Ixchel calls her the daughter of forgetting. You call her hope. Mehen calls her just mine. 3 weeks pass. You settle deeper into the clearing. Others begin to arrive, quietly. At first just 2, a woman and her brother fleeing from the southern ridge where the priests had begun marking women again for the cycle of the moon, forcing virgins into temple bondage. Then 4 more. Then 7. By the second moon, there are 22 of you, some wounded, some broken, but all carrying something sacred memory without obedience. You do not preach, you share. You do not teach, you listen. And the people begin planting things, not just roots, but language. A new dialect forms, mixing the old glyphs with breath sounds, signs with dance. Ka'al's name becomes the center of it, not as goddess, as symbol. They call it Ka'al-Ka, to breathe fire into soil. But fire always attracts shadows. And one morning a girl arrives, no more than 10, alone, her hair matted, her feet blistered, her stomach empty. You bring her water. She drinks too fast, coughs. Ixchel soothes her. She doesn't speak until night. Then, in a whisper, she says, "They're coming." You freeze. Who? She looks up, eyes wide. The voice. That night, you sit with Mehen and Ixchel around the fire. The girl sleeps beside Ka'al, small arms wrapped protectively around the cradle. The voice Mehen says, frowning. "That's a priest title, isn't it?" Ixchel nods. "But only for one." You feel your breath hitch. You know the name, not from dreams, from history. Uba al-Ku, he who speaks for the dead. A title never seen, only heard. Passed in codices too burned to finish. A relic of the first city. It said the voice doesn't walk. He floats. That he doesn't speak with a mouth but through yours. That when he enters a village, all names are forgotten. You don't want to believe it. But belief no longer matters. Only what comes. And what comes 3 days later isn't an army. It's dust. The trees begin to wilt at the edge of your vision. Insects flee underground. Even the birds abandon their nests. You sit by the river Ka'al on your lap, and you feel it. A hum. Low. Distant. Growing. Ixchel approaches. The people are afraid. You look down at your daughter. Then up. They should be. Mehen joins you soon after. She holds a staff now carved with spiral glyphs, and Ka'al's name wrapped around the shaft like a vine. "We can hide," she says. "No," you whisper. "We teach." The children are gathered. The oldest survivors sit in a circle. You tell the story not of gods, but of what came after them. You speak of masks and mercy, of fear and how you shed it like dead skin, and finally of Ka'al. She is not salvation, you say. She is a question. You look at the faces, some weeping, some angry, some holding torches not for burning, but for lighting a path. The girl who brought the warning watches from behind a tree, You beckon her. She steps forward. You hand her ka'al. She cradles the baby and begins to sing. A song no one taught her. A song from before. The jungle sings with her. Even the leaves seem to lean in. But the humming continues. Louder now. Not bees. Not wind. Something deeper. From beneath. Ixchel grips your shoulder. They're not coming from the temples. You look at the dirt. She's right. The ground is trembling. Ka'al opens her eyes. Blue, wide, unblinking. And she doesn't cry. She only listens, as if she's heard this sound before, as if it belongs to her. You press your palm to the soil and hear it faint but rising, return what you stole. The voice has arrived, but you didn't steal anything. You took nothing from the gods. You only gave yourself back to the earth. Still, the earth wants more. The first crack splits the earth just past midnight, a sound like wet bark tearing. The clearing trembles beneath your feet. You rush to Ka'al's cradle, but she is already awake, wide-eyed, silent. She clings to the edge of her wrap, watching the ground as if it's speaking to her. Ixchel is the first to move. She runs to the trees, checking the perimeter, but stops suddenly. Her voice is sharp, clear. There's no movement. But the trees, they're wrong. You join her. She's right. The trees lean inward toward the clearing, curved like bowing priests. Not naturally, as if something is pulling them, drawing them into a center. The people gather. They do not scream, not yet. But you can smell fear rising off their skin. The girl who brought the warning kneels in the dirt, tracing symbols. She doesn't look up. They said the voice would walk the roots, she murmurs, that it comes through what we forget. What does it want? Mehen asks from behind. The girl looks up now. Her eyes are strange, not possessed, not distant, just ancient. It wants the name of the child. You feel every muscle in your body tense. Ixchel's hand finds yours. Ka'al doesn't cry. She watches the girl. You said the voice speaks through others, you whisper. The girl nods. He was never one man. He's what's left when all the rituals are gone, but the silence stays. When blood dries, when masks crack, when even the gods have turned away. He waits in that silence, and then he speaks. You look around. No birds, no frogs, no breeze, only the hum. The trees lean closer. The soil trembles. A low note pulses up through your feet and into your chest, like a drum, but without rhythm. Pure vibration. Show me, you whisper. The girl reaches into her satchel and pulls out a bundle. You unwrap it. Bones, small, polished, human fingers, carved with glyphs. One by one she lays them out. They form a circle. The glyphs spell out only one phrase. What is not remembered becomes God. You stagger back. Ixchel catches you. You whisper, "We forgot too much." Mehen steps forward, holding Ka'al. Her voice is steel. We didn't forget. We chose to stop repeating. Exactly, the girl says. And that's what woke him. The earth splits again, wider this time. A hole opens where your fire once stood. The coals fall into darkness, swallowed whole. Ash rises. A heat you can't explain pulses upward, not flame, but breath, cold breath. And then from the shadows, hands, dozens of them, crawling from the hole, not alive, not dead, white, rigid, silent. They do not grab. They reach toward Ka'al. You draw your blade. Ixchel draws hers. The people begin to scatter, but the girl calls out, "Stop." And they do, because she begins to sing again, that same ancient lullaby, and the hands freeze, twitch, then fold. One by one, they lower themselves into the dirt, like plants wilting, and vanish. The ground closes, not violently, like a sigh, and the silence breaks. Birdsong, wind, a falling leaf. You collapse. So does Ixchel, so does Mehen. Ka'al giggles. The girl stands brushing dirt from her knees. She looks down at you. He heard her name, she says, and that was enough. You stare, gasping. What stopped him? She smiles faintly. She didn't fear him. You pull yourself up slowly, shaking. You were the voice's vessel. She nods. Until now. What happens to you, I forget. You look at her. Her face is already changing, softer, younger. She doesn't remember who you are, doesn't even remember her own name. She walks away into the trees. No one stops her. That night the village holds its first true ceremony. No sacrifice, no fire, only stories. The people gather around Ka'al's cradle and speak their names, aloud, 3 times, so they will not be forgotten, so they will not become God. You stand last. When your turn comes, you don't speak the name you were given in Tikal. You speak the one Mehen whispered when you first held Ka'al. The name you carry now, Father. And the people repeat it. Father. And you feel the fear dissolve. You are no longer a priest. You are no longer hunted. You are the memory that refuses to die. Ka'al takes her first steps on a day dawn-out when the sky glows like fresh clay. You're gathering reeds near the water when Mehen calls out. Her voice isn't alarm, it's joy. You drop the bundle in your arms and rush back to the clearing. Ixchel is already kneeling in the grass, arms outstretched. And there she is, Ka'al, wobbling forward, arms out like branches, hair-wild feet, bare mouth open in a soundless giggle. She falls, then rises again. You've seen empires rise slower. You've seen gods tremble with less grace. Mehen's hands go to her mouth. Her eyes shimmer with tears. She's walking toward the spiral, she whispers. You look down. Beneath Ka'al's path, the grass bends into a perfect spiral, not trampled, just grown that way. You don't speak, because this moment doesn't belong to words. Only breath, only awe. That night you place Ka'al on your lap beside the fire and draw lines in the dirt. She mimics you, her little fingers scrawling squiggles. Ixchel watches from across the flame, her eyes soft. We'll need to build more shelters, she says. The people keep arriving. It's true. Every few days, another handful emerge from the trees. Women with children, men with haunted eyes, old ones with names no one's spoken in decades. Some wear robes of the temple, some wear nothing but bark cloth, but they all say the same thing. We heard the silence was broken. You build and teach. You pass on the lullaby the girl once sang, the one that stopped the voice. It becomes a ritual, not forced, not violent, just sung before every meal, every sleep, every birth. And still you do not speak of gods. You speak of roots, of soil, of remembering. But deep beneath it all, something still pulses, not evil, just old, and waiting. It begins again with a crack in the stone. This time not in the earth, in a bowl. Mehan finds it while washing Ka'al's blanket. A ceremonial bowl she's used for weeks suddenly shatters in her hands without touch. The crack spreads in a perfect spiral. You freeze when she shows you. Not because it's terrifying, because it's familiar. Ixchel joins you by the river. She lifts the pieces in her hand. "This wasn't made here," she says. "No," you reply, "it's temple pottery." But how you don't know. Then you hear Ka'al laugh. You turn. She's holding something in her hands. A small totem, carved from bone. You haven't seen it before, but you recognize it instantly. The two-faced skull from the altar in the ruins. The same one you buried beneath the tree. She dug it up, Mehan says, from the roots. You step forward carefully. "Kneel, Ka'al," you whisper. "Where did you find this?" She says nothing, only lifts the totem to her mouth and sings that same lullaby. But now the words are different, older, sharper. Ixchel backs away. Mehan gasps. You understand now. The song isn't stopping the voice anymore. It's shaping it, giving it edges, form. You carry Ka'al into the forest, to the ruins, to the place where it all began. The altar is cracked now, split down the center. The roots of the great tree wrap around it like ribs. You place the totem there. Ka'al steps forward and presses her hand to the stone. The glyphs ignite, not with flame, with memory. You see it all. The first rites before Tikal, the woman who chose pain over silence, the man who carved names into bark so no child would forget them, the girl who became a vessel then vanished, and you, your own hands, bloody, trembling, holding Ka'al, but not just Ka'al, something else, a fragment, a spark, of what you don't know, not yet. Ka'al turns to you and speaks her first word. Not father, not mother, just this again. You don't ask what she means, because you already know. The cycle never ended. You only stepped out of it. And now you must choose what to do with it. You carry Ka'al back from the ruins in silence. Her small body rests against your chest, but her eyes remain open, scanning the canopy above, as if she sees more than the branches. The jungle breathes slowly now. The wind has stilled. The birds have gone quiet again. But it is not the hush of fear. It is anticipation. Ixchel meets you at the edge of the clearing. Her face is taut lips pressed together. She touches your arm without speaking and glances down at Ka'al. She said a word, you whisper. "I know," Ixchel says. Mehan is already waiting at the hearth, crouched low, tracing patterns in the dirt. Again spirals, circles, three-dot glyphs. Her hands move without looking. She dreams while she's awake now, Mehan says. I see her eyes flicker like when she sleeps. I ask her where she goes. She only says before. The others have noticed too. Ka'al no longer toddles. She walks deliberately, even when alone. She stands beside the trees and lays her hand on their bark. She places stones in perfect lines before the fire. And every morning without fail, she hums the lullaby backwards. You don't remember teaching her that. By the third day, you wake to find symbols carved into your doorway. Not by hand, by flame. Glyphs of warning. Glyphs that don't belong to the gods you once feared, but to her. Ka'al's name marked not in reverence but in prophecy. And still more people arrive. One of them, an old woman with eyes like polished clay, walks straight to the cradle and kneels. She doesn't speak. She doesn't ask permission. She only presses her forehead to the woven edge and whispers, "She is the breath they tried to kill." You don't know what to say anymore. You spend your days carving, gathering, listening. At night you sit beside Ka'al's bedroll and hold her tiny fingers in yours. But on the fourth night, she's gone. You wake before dawn, heart-pounding skin wet with terror. The fire is still warm. Her wrap still smells of bark and breast milk. But she's not in the clearing. You run. Ixchel and Mehen rise instantly. The villagers gather torches, lit blades drawn. But no one speaks her name. It's as if doing so would shatter something too fragile to name. You search the trees. You search the river. You search the altar again. Nothing. Until a cry. Not fear. Laughter. You push through the ferns and find her, standing in the middle of a circle of children. Their hands raised, their eyes glowing. They are humming in unison. Around them, carved into the ground, is the spiral again. Only this time, it pulses. You fall to your knees. Ka'al walks to you, bare feet unmarked. She reaches into her tunic and pulls out something small. The totem. But it's changed. No longer two faces, now just one. Hers. But the eyes closed. She places it in your palm and says, "It's not a god. It's a question." Ixchel approaches behind you. Her voice trembles. She's starting something. Mehen speaks from the other side. No. She's finishing something. You look at the totem, then at the children, then at Ka'al, and suddenly you see the world as it once was, before pain became worship, before bodies were altars, before silence was law. You rise slowly. The villagers watch you, not as priest, not even as father, but as memory incarnate. What now, someone asks. And for the first time you answer not with fear, but with truth. We let them remember. That night Ka'al sleeps in your arms again. But your dreams aren't quiet. They are full of drums, of water, of fire that doesn't burn, and a name not yours that echoes across the jungle like thunder. Begin again. The rain comes hard the next day. Not the soft jungle mist that drips from leaf to leaf, but a downpour so heavy it flattens the tall grass and turns the paths to rivers. The sky splits with thunder. You and Mehen take shelter in the thatched roof hut, Ka'al bundled between you, her eyes wide, watching each flash of lightning, as if it's an omen she can already read. Ixchel stands outside. Soaked to the bone, arms outstretched. She is not praying. She is listening. You step out beside her. The rain stings your skin. It washes away the soot, the ash, the lingering smell of smoke and ritual. It leaves only breath. The clearing begins to flood, but no one runs. The people gather together, shoulder to shoulder, mud covering their ankles, and they begin to speak. Not in glyphs, not in chants, but in story. One by one, they tell what was done to them. Each tale is different. Some tell of temple walls and blades and being chosen too early. Others speak of watching, of surviving, of forgetting. No one interrupts. No one judges. And when each story ends, they speak the same words I remember now. Ka'al listens. She does not speak. She doesn't need to. The people are becoming something new, a civilization not based on fear or precision or sacrifice, but on recollection. A faith built not on gods, but on the refusal to forget the pain that once shaped them. By the time the rain stops, the ground is thick with mud, and the circle has grown larger. You bury the last ritual blade that day, not as a symbol, as a seed. And in its place, Ka'al places a single carved stone, the spiral. The people do not bow. They sit, and they listen. And slowly, the jungle begins to hum again. But this time, it is a song of roots growing, of rivers returning to places they'd once abandoned. That night, Mehen takes your hand beneath the stars and asks a question she's never dared before. Do you think we were chosen? You watch Ka'al sleep beside Ixchel, fingers curled around a carved jaguar toy. No, you say. We weren't chosen. Mehen tilts her head. We chose. The wind breathes through the trees, and for the first time you think maybe the jungle is not hiding anything. It is waiting for a name that doesn't belong to gods, but to children. You close your eyes, and in the dark you don't see temples or masks or blood. You see hands, holding, lifting, building, again and again and again. Now your eyes are heavier than they were when we began. The rain has passed, the fire has faded to embers, and Ka'al sleeps soundly, nestled in the quiet breath of a world reborn. You sit still, unmoving, as the sounds of night return, soft frogs in the distance, the low rustle of palm leaves, the hush of wind curling through the branches. No chants, no screams. Just nature as it always was before men tried to make gods out of terror. You take one more breath. Slow, deep. And in that breath you carry 1,000 stories. The names that were forgotten. The rituals no longer needed. The hands that once trembled now passing down toys instead of knives. Even now, the jungle remembers. But it no longer demands pain in return. You return to the clearing one last time in your mind. The place where memory was sung, where silence cracked open and was replaced by voices soft, steady, human. Ka'al is older now. You see her in the center, not as a goddess, but as a teacher, a story keeper. Her feet bare, her hands strong, her words clear. And as you finally close your eyes, the spiral fades slowly from your thoughts, but not your body. Because you were never meant to forget, only to live. And now, you can rest.